into the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Oh, there we go. This for you, Billy B. Billy O.B. Welcome, you guys, to the Hard Knocks After Show. We're so excited to be back. I'm your host, Christina Kaplan. I'm joined by two returning hosts and one newcomer, guys.
Hey guys, I'm Stef Z. Happy to be back. Happy to be back. Football has started. I'm so happy I forgot how to talk.
That's right. I'm Frank Maiorana. I am the newbie, the aforementioned newbie. Girls, thanks for having me on and being part of your show.
The rookie.
Of course.
We'll see if you last.
I'm going to be carrying your pads by the end of the practice here.
Yeah, probably.
Hey y'all, I'm Lyndsey Wegner. Nice to see everybody back again.
Sweet.
Yes. Like we said, Frank is a newbie, but we're happy to have him. Our rookie, we're gonna haze him. I mean, no, we won't.
He got our water before the show.
Yeah. Step one of the rookie hazing. Yeah. But guys, before we start, tell everyone where they can find you on social media, so you guys can tweet at us, message us, whatever. We'll answer your questions. We love to do that, Steph.
You guys can tweet me at IAMSTEFZ.
And I'm Let's Go Frank M.
You guys are so exciting. I'm at Lyndsey Wegner, LYNDSEYWEGNER.
And I'm at Tina Cap. Easy. Do it. Send us your questions. All right, guys. So this season...
Easy.
Well, actually, before we get into Hard Knocks...
That's right.
Shit.
Let's talk about some major football news that broke today. If you don't know Stef Z well, you will by the end of this...
Jets.
She's a giant Jets fan, so...
I'm a huge Jets fan, not a giant Jets fan.
I'm
could be confused with the two New York teams.
Which you would not be proud to be a Giants fan.
Huge Jets fan, yes.
You know, I've been getting calls. My phone has been blowing up all day about this whole Geno Smith broken jaw thing.
Well, yes. First, let's tell them he was cold clocked in the locker room by one of the linebackers.
Yeah, I don't know how to say his last name.
Yeah, he's got a weird name.
Weird last name, but he was
He's
his second round draft pick. He was there last year. He's a second year guy, number 51. It's ITYK, whatever. Anyway, long story short, I feel like the bigger conversation is, and yes, I'm a Jets fan. We are the laughing stock. I understand. My opinion on this is that this is a blessing in disguise. We got Ryan Fitzpatrick, who I get he's not the best quarterback ever, but he's consistent. And we finally have a vet that maybe our new guys like Bryce Petty can learn from. So I am taking this because we've got vets on our team now. We got Brandon Marshall. We got Eric Decker. Our D is ridiculous. So if we have a guy in there that's consistent, maybe he's not awesome. Maybe he's not, a Manning or a Tom Brady or whatever, but if he's consistently good, I feel like the receivers will run the routes and we will score points and our D will hold people down. So I'm going to just boldly say Jets are going to the playoffs, at least. Boom. Better record than your Chargers. And she's going to be a traitor anyway.
You are a truly delusional Jets fan.
Nope.
I think it's very sad to see. But Ryan Fitzpatrick was on the Texans last year.
Right.
So, he was successful with them.
And before that, he was on the Bills, and he was almost going for an undefeated season. He's a very smart quarterback, went to Harvard, and it was really funny. One of my favorite tweets today I saw was, do you think Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be scared that he's going to get punched too? And and they said, no, everyone loves Fitzpatrick. He's tutoring all their kids on the SATs.
That's true. Didn't he score like a 99 on the Wonderlic or something like that?
He's brilliant. So that's what I'm saying. Like, we haven't had that brilliance in our quarterback position for a while. And I feel really good about Bryce Petty. He's our guy. Like, he's from Baylor. He's really good, but he's a rookie. So if he can get learn under somebody actual good, like we're gonna have a better shot learning under a consistent and kind of good. Come on, do you agree with me a little bit?
No, I do agree.
Okay.
I've never really been a huge Geno Smith fan. No offense, I just kind of think the guy's a little dumb. I
don't know if he's
like, no, I don't mean it in like a mean way. I just mean he's like done a lot of dumb things. Like he could have been good, but he's just messing up.
I feel like he's just not committed, and I know that you guys used to crucify me when we used to compare him to Tim Tebow, and it was like, not that I thought Tim Tebow was a better coach, but Tim Tebow, like Geno Smith comes on the field and I wouldn't feel safe. I don't feel like he commands the field. I'm not like, put him in. He doesn't have that leadership or that mentality to take control of the field like Tim Tebow did, even though he can't throw the ball. But you know what I mean? Like I would choose the person that wants to be out there and commands the attention rather than someone who doesn't and throws a million interceptions and is not great.
Like our quarterbacks, you mean Aaron Rodgers and Matt Stafford that command a team?
I'm gonna let that one slide. We'll see Thursday, preseason, baby.
We're going down.
Well, let's slide right into the quarterbacks on the Houston Texans, who we saw today. Brian Hoyer and Ryan Mallett, some real flashy names. So excited to see what happens in that quarterback battle. But really, they're both veteran guys on a team that has really needed a quarterback for a while. So, I mean, we didn't really get to see too much of them yet, except that their jerseys were forgotten on the road trip. But what are your guys' expectations for that quarterback battle? Do you think that somebody is?
I think Hoyer's going to get the starting position.
Really?
I disagree. I think Mallett's going to get it.
I agree.
Yeah. And this is why, and again, I could be wrong, but I'm a creature of habit. I feel his presence, his stance, the way he talks, everything. I feel like he's there. I feel like Mallett's a little bit like.
Well, yeah, he did
like
kind of
the inner
say.
Song playing is. He's
like, why did I throw that ball? Like,
yeah, and it's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be a good competition because I don't think there's one that shines a lot brighter than the other one.
Right, yeah.
But I don't know. It would be interesting if I'm the only one that thinks that. I'm okay with that.
Well, I think Mallett has more arm talent. I mean, I'm actually quite familiar with Mallett because he went to Michigan for a year. I'm from Michigan. I went to Michigan for school, and so he went to Michigan for a year, then went to Arkansas, and then obviously went pro and was with the Patriots. And we saw, in the show that he was with the Patriots, and so was Hoyer. So he has a lot of experience with this system, and he's big. He's 6'5", he's 230. He's got a nasty, strong arm, and he just made a stupid play in practice. I think you're allowed to do it, in practice. He slid right and then threw across his body all the way. But this team is only going to go so far as these guys perform. I mean, they're not elite. I don't think anybody, you heard Coach O'Brien at the beginning of the practice say, no one's talking about us. No one's talking about our quarterbacks. In fact, they're talking bad about us. So he really needs to get the best out of them if they're going to do well. And I really think it's Ryan Mallett.
I think it's Ryan Mallett too, and I think all of this is just dependent on some players coming together. We need healthy players. We've already lost Arian Foster until the second week in September, I believe, is when ESPN said that he was going to come back. If we can get Jadeveon? JD.
Yeah,
we can get JD healthy with JJ Watt and Cushing. Christina, you love him.
My boy.
He's your boy. If we can get all three of them, that means they can't double team or triple team JJ Watt. This is a great defensive line. They can get some offensive plays back. I think that the defense then will bring the offense together, bring these new wide receivers that they're going to get in. Who was the wide receiver they were watching today?
DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
He looks fantastic.
Yeah, he looks
He's
really
running some great routes and plays.
He was a solid number 2 wideout last year for them. I mean, I had him on my fantasy team. He had solid production, so there's no doubt that he can, that he won't be a good, replacement, so to speak, for Andre Johnson. He's got the talent and the speed, so, I mean, we saw some good things from him already. I don't think that that'll be an issue.
And just real quick, the news on Foster is that his muscle tore away from his bone in his groin. Ouch. I mean, that really hurts, and he's going to be out at least 8 weeks, they're saying. Yeah. So that's half the season. So they're without their best offensive weapon for half the year.
Right.
So they've really got to. Hopkins has to come up big. Their offensive line has to open up holes for guys like Alfred Blue, who did not perform as well last year when Foster was out and injured. This team's got a lot of question marks on the offensive end, but like you were saying, Lyndsey, I mean, they've got the talent on defense. Mm-hmm. Can their defense keep them in games long enough to where their offense can get enough points to get them over the top? Those are the questions that we need to be watching for,
right.
as the season keeps going.
Yeah.
Yes, well, no, go ahead, Steph.
I was going to say, and I think a lot of that comes from, like we see early in this episode, early in the beginning, a lot of it comes from teamwork, a lot of it comes from being on the same page, a lot of it comes from relationships. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm a really big fan of Coach Bill O'Brien.
I love him.
Yeah. I never, again, like, you don't know a coach until you watch it. Like, you know the coach, but you don't see his mannerisms, the way he speaks to his team, what he stands for until, that team is on Hard Knocks. And I'm really, really impressed with him and just everything about him. I really like him.
We're also talking about a coach that went in and coached Penn State.
Yeah.
Right.
And who really wants to come in and take over a team like that? Yeah. And then not only, he was offered, he could have left, and he decided to stay for another year.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So he's obviously a man of integrity, wants the team to succeed and do well and lead them. And that's, I think, what he's going to bring to the Texans.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. He was really impressive. And I came in here tonight and watching the show going, everything the ESPN guys are saying about how the Texans have no chance and they're not going to win a whole lot of games. But then you listen to him talk.
Oh, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
And he goes, it's us against the world. We are 30 games below 500. No one thinks we're going to win. I wrote that down and I kind of got a little fired up. I was like, yeah, I believe in this guy. You really start changing your mind when you listen to him more and more.
Yeah, and I really liked how he started and he was questioning the rookies on their knowledge of the team. How do you not know? And it was interesting because they were saying that the rookies knew the rookies, but they didn't know the vets. And I would think that it would be different. I would think that if I got drafted on a team, I would know every freaking person on that team. Your teammates, and you wouldn't know the other new people. But I guess since you're playing with the other people in college and you know them from, I guess it's whatever.
Well, not only that, and you're coming in at the same time as them. You're doing a lot of stuff rookie only. The rookies arrive before everyone else to camp, so they're kind of together.
You still gotta know.
No, I know. Gotta suck up to them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you gotta know who all those are.
I mean, if Frank would have been like, "Who are you?" and "What's your name today?" we would have been like, "Get out of here." He knew.
We've been in this league, Frank, for a long time.
I know.
You're the vets.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely a show of character for Bill O'Brien that he's already quizzing these guys. He's holding them to higher standards. He wants this team to be a unit. And I think that's when teams are most successful, is when everyone is working together, unlike the Jets, who are getting into fights in the locker room, Okay,
I got two things for that. Number one, I completely agree with you, and that was a question that I wanted to hear your guys' opinion on. How much, granted, there's teams, there's talent, there's teams that have great supporting casts for a quarterback, there's teams that have good teams, no quarterback. How much of it do you think if you made it a math equation, how much of it do you think is these relationships and how these teams, locker room, how much does the locker room weigh on the success of a team?
There's a reason it's called the Vince Lombardi Trophy. It's good. It's good leadership. It comes from the coach. It comes from the beginning, and it trickles down. And those players, when you see J.J. Watt talking, I'm fired up then too.
Right.
So you see these people, and that all then comes to the locker room, I think, together.
So I'm saying, when you think it's 50-50, you think the most talented team could have a shitty locker room, and then they would have a bad season?
No.
You know what I mean? Do you think that it stays in the locker room, and when they're on the field, these guys shelf it? Because there's been more so than ever. You had Cam Newton this week. You had Geno Smith today. You had the fight in the Redskins scrimmage. I feel like there's been more. And again, I don't know if it's because now everyone's a reporter. Something happens in the locker room, someone takes it. Years ago, maybe these locker room stuff wouldn't get out as much, so we wouldn't know. But I feel like there's more and more locker room, quote unquote, drama happening nowadays than in the past.
I think it's just kind of being exacerbated a little bit more by the media, because I've heard guys at NFL Network speaking about it, and there's always drama, there's always fights, there's always guys that don't get along on a team. But like you said, you shelf it when you go out for the game because you're all trying to get to a common goal, which is win. So I think that having a group, having a unit that gets along and that wants to work together is very beneficial. I don't think that it's, really going to make that big of a difference if there is a few feuds going on, if you have enough talent.
Unless someone breaks your quarterback's jaw. And
then he's just gonna get let go.
But we did talk about that last year, how offense and defense, they're not made to get along. They're not going to get along, so they do have to shelf that when it comes down to on the field, because they have to count on one another to either.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little different than I feel like just because the offense and defense doesn't get along, the quarterback gets punched in the face.
Well, no, of course, that shouldn't happen. But I think that Christina's right, that it all gets exacerbated because of the media now, because it's just more, we want to hear this. We're dying to hear these little bits and pieces. And I don't really care. I would rather hear about the team doing well than these little dramatic things.
Right. I mean, it's going to happen. It's a brutal game out there. You see the guys battling in the receiver and the defensive back groups. I mean, to get that little foot of space, you got to, give them a shiver and then throw them back. And so there's a lot of physical contact happening really quick. And these guys, I mean, this is their jobs, their livelihood. So they're going 110% as hard as they can. So stuff like that's going to happen. I mean, you're going to have scuffles. The issue with the Jets is, this is something that happened in the locker room, over $600 in a plane flight. It's just silliness. So I think, what Christina was saying is right, is that, the little things happen and that kind of fuels your team and actually can sometimes bring you together.
Yeah.
But this Jets issue is just totally different.
Honestly, though, I really think, and I got love for Gino, but I feel like this is going to work out to our advantage. So, playoffs, here we come.
Okay, back to the Houston Texans, the team that we're supposed to be talking about
here. I didn't start the Jet segue. You did.
I know, I did. I'm sorry. I just can't help myself.
It's all right. I can take it.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the vets on this Texans team. We kind of open up the episode after Bill O'Brien's speech with Vince Wilfork at the Ringling Brothers Circus, and he's a large man, and he's standing next to an elephant. He's like, wow, they're so big. And I thought that was kind of a funny juxtaposition to show how big he is, and he feels small next to this animal. But how beneficial do you think is having a veteran like Vince Wilfork, who's a 2-time Super Bowl champion, played 11 years with the Patriots, which obviously is a dynasty organization, coming into a Texans team that needs a little bit more leadership?
I think it's a great thing. I mean, I think it is amazing. I mean, they need those guys.
Especially Vince Wilfork.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a great guy. He's hilarious. We saw him out there playing basketball with his family. I mean, I think that was my favorite scene in the show. He's like, here comes Jordan, here comes Vlade Divac, and then he throws it off the backboard and doesn't even score, but then he gets on fire. I mean, he seems like a magnetic personality. We saw him with Tom Brady, and they've got all their ice on their hands. It's like, dang. And he's got to gather that respect from the rest of the guys in the locker room too, because hey, I've been there, I've won championships, and you can look at me to see what we have to do. And he's just so valuable, especially with the young team who seems to be on the rebound. I mean, 2 years ago they were 2-14. Last year they were 9-7 and just missed the playoffs. So they're missing just that little ingredient, and maybe that sort of veteran leadership gets them over the top.
Yeah,
man, Vince is a hooper.
It'll be interesting to see how him and JJ Watt, if they parallel each other, add to each other, because JJ Watt, I feel like, is the vet on the team who is like...
Well, he was clearly the captain of the defense.
I was going to say
that.
Yeah.
So I think it seems to me, as far as Vince's personality goes, he's kind of going to be that back seat guy, but there for you if you need to talk to him.
Right.
Whereas JJ is the voice of the defense, and he kind of commands that respect. I mean, you saw him. We saw great cuts of him after practice, after they had a crappy game. The defense played like crap. His coach was calling him out, and after they're done whatever, they huddle up, they leave, and he stays and is working and working and working. And I don't know if that was the producers like, hey, you want to stay and do a little thing, or if it really, I think it probably was him.
I'm sure he's first in, last out, but I definitely think it might have been the producers when he's like, let me take my shoulder pads off.
Yeah.
Show my muscles.
Show those guns off, JJ.
Which is fine.
Yeah, I'm sure the ladies have no problem with that.
We're not complaining at all. He's a massive human, and I can't imagine standing next to him how big his arms just look huge.
Yeah.
You know?
They're like a body.
But yeah, he's a very polarizing player on that team, and it shows by what he does. You know what I mean? He goes out there, like Steph said, he's probably first in, last out. Then he goes and he signs autographs. Literally every single person in line, he's signing their autograph. I mean, if you didn't already know, JJ Watt's a great guy, and you see that in this first episode.
Yeah, he's super humble too, I feel like. You've seen, because he has been, I mean, he seems to be their golden boy in a way, and it's clear that, also that's different from last year. When we did Hard Knocks last season with the Falcons, I don't feel like there was one person that stood out as much as JJ and got as much camera time, especially the first episode.
Yeah.
So I feel like, and we've seen him in the news. Like, you see him when he does the stuff with Katy Perry for the Super Bowl. You see him in the picture with Jennifer Aniston when he seems just very humble and one of those guys that's like, wow, I just want to play football and do my best. But wait, I get to do this other stuff too? Okay, cool, but I don't really know how to take it. But what I'm supposed to do is sign all these autographs because all these people are standing here cheering for me. Like, he seems to make good choices.
Because he's from Wisconsin.
Oh, jeez.
It totally is. He bought a house there, like an $800,000 house, which in Wisconsin is like a flipping ginormous mansion in LA.
A compound.
But he could live anywhere in the world. And he chooses to live by his family in Wisconsin. I just think that's he's just a down-to-earth, good guy. I mean, at the end when we see him playing bags with his family. Bags. Did you hear it?
Is that what you guys call it?
Well, it's
Isn't it
cornhole?
Yeah.
In Wisconsin, we call it bags.
I've heard of bags before, too. But I'm from Michigan, so it must be a Midwest thing.
It must be.
But you see him doing that with his family. He's got his JJ Watt Foundation. It's made over $1 million for 6th to 8th graders for after-school, athletics. I mean, the guy's a good, solid dude.
Yeah. I feel like, too, that there's probably, not to take anything away from JJ, but I feel like there's a lot of players that do stuff like that. But, of course, we always, in the media, you always hear about the bad stuff more than a lot of the good stuff. So it's really nice to see and to learn that stuff.
And he's filled a big void for the Texans since he came in on day one. Everyone forgets he was drafted the year after they lost Mario Williams to the Buffalo Bills. Mario Williams, number 1 overall pick, too. So, and that was the year that Vince Young was coming out, and there was a lot of pressure on the Texans to get Vince Young, but they went with Mario Williams instead. Williams leaves, now Watt comes in, and they haven't missed a beat. So he's been a mainstay for them, and they're a relatively young team. This is their 14th season, and between him and Andre Johnson, they're pretty much the best 2 players that have ever played for that franchise. So he's really important to them.
Based on a yearly salary, he is the highest non-quarterback paid player.
And he deserves it.
Yeah. He's that good. I mean, when you see him in practice and you see him flipping that tire,
1,000-pound tire.
I mean,
I don't even think I could get that. I don't even think I could get my fingers under there to even attempt to do that. I mean, crazy. And the NFL Network does a best top 100 players of 2014, voted on by the players. He was voted on number 1 player overall. Mm-hmm. So to have the respect of your peers as well means a lot. And I loved in his quote when he was working out, and he said, create that chip on your shoulder. Create a reason to go out there and be the best and prove everyone that you are the best. And I love that he because right now, he has no chip on his shoulder. He is the best. He is by far, hands down, the best. But in order to get better, he's, working towards, I don't know, staying the best, I guess. But it's a good mentality to have, and it shows what kind of a person is, what kind of an employee, so to speak, he is as well.
I'm sure he's, in his own mind, has his own secret chips that he's created to keep him motivated. Because you have to at that point.
He's really upset that Jennifer Aniston got married this last weekend. He actually said it. I think it was on First Take or something. He actually is like, addressed his disappointment that she got married.
Yeah,
JJ, stay out of the media for that kind of stuff.
Isn't he with,
Stay out of
what's
it.
her name, the tennis player?
I don't
the
know who
blonde
he's
girl?
dating. I don't care.
Sharapova?
No. Oh my god, no. She's like this cute little, like, blonde girl. I forget her name, but maybe they're not dating anymore. I don't know.
We're gonna have to do some homework on that.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a huge thing, but whatever. All right, so injuries. We already get hit with the injury bug. Arian Foster, you mentioned it earlier, Frank. Number 1 running back on this team. I don't know if I would say top 5 because there's so many good running backs right now, but definitely top 10 running back in the league. A huge blow to lose him for, what did you say, 8 weeks, I think?
Yeah, at least half the season he's going to be out. I mean, it's a groin injury, and the muscle pulled away from his bone, so he has to go in for surgery. It's a long comeback. And then the other part of this, you're exactly right. He was 10th overall last year in effectiveness as a running back. His backup, Alfred Blue, was 44th.
Yeah.
And I was reading an article on running back combos. And between Arian Foster and Alfred Blue was one of the 4th worst effective backup runners in terms of position relative to their, to their primary back in front of them. So, it's going to be a real challenge for the Texans to get the running game going. Yeah. And this injury really, really hurts. I mean, I don't think you could come up with a script that would be more detrimental to the team than to lose Arian Foster for half the season. I mean, unless you lost him for the entire thing.
I mean, the only positive you could see in that is I think Hoyer and Mallett are both kind of pass-heavy quarterbacks. And obviously we saw DeAndre Hopkins is doing well. I'm not sure the depth chart who their other wide receivers are, but...
Well, Cecil Shorts is coming in too.
Yeah, so there's another, solid vet that's been in the league for a while. So that can kind of be the silver lining, I guess, but it still hurts to lose him for sure. And we had Clyett, what was his first name? Rashard Clyett, torn ACL, rookie linebacker who had extreme promise. Obviously, Bill O'Brien said, I want him to be a Texan in 2016. He loved him just from what he saw in training camp enough to want to keep him. But injuries are so tough in training camp. It's
hard to watch in training camp, even more I think than a game.
Yeah,
because you feel really bad for them, because you have to wonder, we were talking about this during the show, that do they get to stay and play, right, or do they get dropped? And it really is, it's a case by case. Thank you, Steph. Case by case completely. And they're going to keep Rashard, they're going to keep him.
Well, obviously, they're keeping Arian Foster.
And,
go on.
Yeah.
But Arian Foster...
Well, but as a rookie, I think...
It's a little bit more scary as a rookie, because you don't know if they're going to let you go, and then you're free agent, you get picked up by somebody else, do they pick you up halfway through a season? You just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's really brutal. When that happened, all of us, as we were watching it, went, oh...
And the crazy thing is we all knew it happened.
Tough.
Yeah.
Because it happened last week.
Yeah, you see him holding his knee. I mean, he was...
No, with Rashard. We didn't know about him.
I thought you were talking about...
No, I'm talking about Rashard. So, Rashard's a 6th round draft pick. He was picked 211th overall. So, I mean, his contract's not going to be, explosive like J.J. Watt's, but, hopefully he's going to be able to come back next year and keep his spot on the team. But it's just brutal for a guy who is, coming from behind, probably has a little bit of chip on his shoulder that other teams passed on him and was performing really well. To have that all stolen from him in one play, your fortune can change, and that's for anybody in this league.
Yeah, it's true. And then it was interesting to see Coach O'Brien talk about that. He's like, you never know. Injuries happen. And you never know.
Every single day, yeah.
Which is, incentive to keep everybody, practicing their hardest, but it's also, scary as well that there's really no control.
Yeah, but we all know, too, though, that Arian Foster is one of those players that is injury-prone.
Yeah.
Some players are, yes.
Some players are, and he's one of those. I know in fantasy football last year, it's like, do you draft him?
Right.
Do I really want to take him for my first-round pick? Or do I want to take somebody else because maybe they may not be as great, but he's going to get hurt halfway through the season. I know it. He's going to be out for 4 games, and I'm going to be screwed. So do you go with that chance? And he's somebody that has that. And I loved hearing him talk at the beginning of the episode saying, I've got this coach. He's so great. He's my same body type. He pushes for me. Hearing his excitement, and then he's hurt.
Yeah, it was really sad because we already knew that he was, injured. So watching him train and stuff was kind of like a little bit of a letdown. But whatever, you got to move on. And during their joint practice with the Redskins, Deshaun Jackson got injured as well, running into a training sled. So a lot of people getting injured right now. But let's talk about those joint practices quickly, because there was a lot that happened.
Yeah.
Okay, for me, it really excites me to see two teams kind of go after it. I don't know. I love seeing the fighting, even though I don't want them to get injured and whatever. But what do you guys think about that? 5 fights broke out in the day 3 of joint practices.
I totally agree with you. I love it. I mean, it's just so great to see them out there battling and you know, going after each other, because, look, they're not out there to be friends. I mean, this is somebody that is trying to beat you and take away, you know, what you're going after. A lot of these guys need that motivation that, you know what, this is my livelihood. You're trying to take my job away from me and make me look bad. And, you know, a lot's on the line. I love it because the stakes are so high. So they're going after it as hard as they can. Yeah, sometimes tensions boil over, but that's football. You disagree, Steph?
I think it's horseshit.
Me too.
I think it's absolute horseshit. It's a lack of discipline. You're not there to fight. If you want to go fight, there are other sports. You're there to play football. And if you can't keep your composure because you're pissed off because someone says something to you when you don't make a good play.
But what kind of fights are you talking about?
Yeah,
are you just talking about little scuffles?
Brawl.
I mean, the brawl, we're not talking about the brawl.
No,
we're
just
like
talking about the
like a little bit of pushing and like basketball, like, you know what I mean? Like a little bit of contact, fine, let the guys play.
Right.
But I feel like, you know, it's like you give them an inch, they're going to take a yard. And I feel like that's what happened. And the mentality of these guys is like, you're not hiring animals. It's not what it is. It's a game of football. This would never happen years ago. It's all these egos. It's all this stuff. And the discipline of this team leads to things like people getting punched in the face in the locker room. Like, if you don't stop it at that that first point, where's the line? And with the NFL and with the anger and like all the stuff that's happening, they don't really know how to regulate anything with all, like, there's so much happening that is a lack of discipline in this league that I love very, very much. But
does she?
No, I do. But you know what I'm saying? I feel like at this point in time, it's like, oh, hell no. If I was that coach, well, no.
Last year on the Falcons, if anyone fought, remember, they were out then for the next game. And I think that that's a good way to kind of do it. You do have to set some sort of discipline. This is where the stupid injuries come into play. Not the little, you know, pushing or the ribbing each other and that stuff. No, whatever. But when that's the only thing that leads then to the big brawls, and then that's when somebody's going to get injured or somebody's going to go to the locker room and cold cock somebody. It's just stupid, and it's no discipline. It's the coach. The coach is saying, get out of there, Texans, get out.
You can't do that at any other job. Like, we can't all just start fighting.
Yeah, but I mean, it's apples and oranges, okay? I mean, obviously, it's apples and oranges. But
it's not, in the same sense, it shouldn't be to that extent. Like, they're there to play football.
I get that, but I think the conflict between the two teams, it leads to some really fun moments, and we saw one in this episode between DeAndre Hopkins and D'Angelo Hall. So D'Angelo Hall's on the sideline, jawing at Hopkins after Hopkins made a sweet catch, and then he came back and broke his ankles on the next rep or the next play. And
fine,
that's just
love
so
it.
Great. I mean,
Let the
that's what I'm
karma
talking
get it.
about.
No pushing necessary.
let the
no
karma
face
get it.
mask necessary. No dirty play necessary. But look, scoreboard. That's how you get back at somebody.
That's right.
Have them look at the scoreboard.
I agree with you.
That's the ultimate win in my book.
Exactly.
And that guy looked like a fool who got his ankles broken.
That's right.
That's way for me as an athlete. That would be a way better win to a scuffle or fight than punching somebody.
That's more fulfilling.
Totally agree with you.
I think
Totally
it's just mindset.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I do too. I never said I like the punching.
No one likes the brawls.
Same thing, you know, in basketball, in any sport. I like when guys kind of go at it a little bit and chatter to each other, or like, you know, just a little shove, like, get out of my way or whatever. And then they proceed on to, you know, break ankles like DeAndre did.
But I feel like then it comes down to the other sports like baseball, where you've got a pitcher hitting somebody. You're doing things on purpose. These fights are starting then on purpose.
Yeah.
And they're trying to hurt each other. They're not what do you think, these guys in this big fight, they're sitting there and trying to like push each other around and not actually hurt each other?
Yeah.
What do you think they do when there's a fumble and they're reaching into grab the ball? They're poking each other's eyes. They're doing whatever they can to hurt the person. That's the same mentality that's going into it when they're getting in these brawls. And that all starts with the little fights. sorry. I'm getting amped up right here.
She's mad because she's a Packers fan, and Ndamukong Suh stepped on Aaron Rodgers after one play back in the day. And,
multiple times. He stepped on a guy's face. He stepped on Aaron Rodgers' shin when he was hurt. He's a dirty player. I don't like it.
There are some. I think that's what it comes down to too. There's a fine line between like having the intensity and being dirty.
Yeah, no, totally. Kind of derailed the whole
we got fired up there.
But yeah, I love it. I love it.
Anyway.
All right, so quickly, let's end up with someone who we actually saw a lot of. Rookie Kevin Johnson. Yeah. He is a corner out of, what'd you say, Wake Forest,
yes.
Frank?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was their first round draft pick this year. And we find out that his sister is actually a cheerleader for the Ravens, which I thought was pretty cool.
That is interesting.
Exciting athletic family, I guess. I mean, I said this last season.
I was a cheerleader for 8 years. We are very athletic.
Absolutely.
I said this last season.
I'm gonna just.
But I'm not gonna say it. You know what I think. But
I'm not gonna say anything.
Keep my mouth shut.
You guys should right now, because I was a cheerleader for 8 years, high school and college, competed at a national level.
You know what, Lyndsey? I'm sure that you were amazing.
I think you guys should arm wrestle.
And I would have cheered for you. I would have cheered for you as you were cheering for the team.
I will say this. The cheerleaders in the NFL are a little bit more dance related. It's not stunting. And I'm not saying that dancing isn't difficult or hard or athletic, but when you're throwing girls in the air and I'm catching a 120-pound girl and putting her onto my shoulders, when I'm up in a stunt and I have to balance, that's athletic.
Yes.
You're talking about the guys throwing these girls, catching them. We're flying 15, 20 feet in the air doing tricks. It is very athletic. Of sports teams, cheerleaders in the NFL, it is a little bit different unless they are stunting. I will say that.
You were gonna say something.
I was gonna say something real quick. I was gonna say a friend of mine is a choreographer, however you say it, and we had this kind of debate about athlete versus dancer. So she actually made me do a dance class recently, like within the past month, and I have to say I haven't sweat that much in like years, and it was pretty difficult. Yeah. So it gave me dancing, cheering still, I don't know how I feel about it, but it gave me a little bit more of like, all right, this is a workout.
I would have paid money to see Stef Z in a dance class.
It was the most amazing thing ever. I'd go back. It was fun. I was the most terrible person in the room.
Oh my gosh. I doubt that. I think you've got some rhythm in you.
I do, but it was like a dance that apparently they had all been learning for 2 weeks, and I was like turning the wrong way. It was amazing. Anyway,
I wonder if Kevin Johnson would be a good dancer.
You know,
it's obviously in the family.
He might be.
He's quick on his feet. I feel like a great cornerback.
I feel like those corners kind of have like the
steps,
the moves to be a dancer. I don't know.
Yeah, they're in tune with their body.
The back pedal.
Unless you're like a Victor Cruz.
Oh, look at you shaking it.
Get the Harlem Shake going here.
All right.
All right. Well, episode 1 in the books. It's exciting. I think there's been a lot of action so far, and I'm excited for the rest of this season. Yeah. So, guys, like I said before, tweet us, write your comments in the YouTube, subscribe to YouTube, podcast, everything. Give us your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. And my wonderful panel, where can they find you on social media again?
Hey guys, it's Lyndsey here. You guys can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Lyndsey Wegner, or my blog, lyndseywegner.blogspot.com.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at Let's Go Frank M. I'm looking forward to see Jadeveon Clowney coming up soon in this season.
JD.
You guys can find me on all the social media platforms at IAMSTEFZ.
And you can find me on Instagram or Twitter at Tina Cap. And we will see you next week.
See you guys.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.